Welcome to our March 2019 webinar from Abilene Christian University Idea Lab. We're grateful you're able to join us today, most likely on your lunch break at work, to learn from our amazing instructors. These webinars will be recorded and available in the future on our Idea Lab website at acuidealab.com. On this site, you can also learn more about what we do for professional development. If you would like more information on our online degree programs, please visit acu.edu. All of our online degree programs are designed for working professionals like yourself. Today, we will hear from Dr. O'Byrne, Associate Professor of Organizational Leadership here at ACU, who I will introduce momentarily. I am Noelle Awan, and I'm your host this afternoon. We also have Lori Ann Shaw, Executive Director of Idea Lab and Duncombe Center Solutions, who will oversee the chat during today's session. You will notice that all participants are muted and hidden, but there will be opportunities to participate in discussions and ask questions using the chat function found at the bottom of your Zoom window. Let's all begin using the chat with everyone sharing their first name and the city and state they're joining from. Here is today's agenda. Dr. O'Byrne will present on the power of thanks at work, including an explanation of gratitude, how cultivating gratitude benefits us, what is the current state of gratitude at work, why we care about gratitude, and how gratitude can be incorporated into organizations. I will close this out at 12:45 with some next step items, and we welcome anyone who would like to stay after for a Q&A with Dr. O'Byrne. By the end of this webinar, you should be able to understand the benefits of gratitude in our lives, summarize the state of gratitude at work, describe the outcomes of gratitude in the workplace, and develop strategies for creating a culture of gratitude at work. Now I'd like to introduce our faculty sharing some of her expertise with us today. Dr. Kristin Koetting O'Byrne, often referred to as Dr. KK, has a master's and Ph.D. in counseling psychology from the University of Missouri, Kansas City, as well as a bachelor's with honors in psychology from the University of Missouri, Columbia. She has research interests in positive psychology, health psychology, and what makes leaders, families, and organizations thrive. Her work has appeared in several publications, including Health Psychology, The Counseling Psychologist, and Positive Psychological Assessment, just to name a few. Dr. KK is a licensed psychologist in Kansas, and in her private consulting practice, Wellness and Wellbeing Solutions, she works with individuals and organizations to harness their potential and well-being. I've personally had the privilege of working with and getting to know Dr. KK during my time here at ACU, and have seen firsthand what an impact she's made on our students, some of which I see are joining us today. I'm excited and honored to welcome Dr. KK O'Byrne.
Thank you so much, Noelle, and I am so grateful for you, and I'm grateful to be here today and share what I know about gratitude. And I hope that I will convince you that by practicing and expressing gratitude, that this is one of the simplest things that you can do to enhance your own well-being and the well-being of your organization. So, what is gratitude? Gratitude is an emotion and a virtue. For centuries, gratitude has been widely held as an important virtue by religious traditions and philosophers. The philosopher Cicero referred to gratitude as not only the greatest of virtues, but the parent of all others. Gratitude is also an emotion. Specifically, it's a moral emotion. And a moral emotion is linked to the interests or welfare of others or society as a whole. And it's produced by the good or the virtuous actions of other people. So simply put, gratitude is recognizing that we have benefited by the action of another person. And more broadly, it is appreciating the good in one's life and in the world, and how it comes from another person or a higher power. As a result, gratitude helps connect us to something larger than ourselves as individuals, whether it's connecting us to other people, connecting us to nature, or even a higher power. So, why does gratitude matter? Well, it turns out that gratitude is really good for us. There are numerous benefits of gratitude. For starters, it benefits our mental health. Gratitude is associated with lower levels of stress. In fact, in one study, researchers found that a daily gratitude practice was associated with a 23% reduction of the stress hormone cortisol. It is also linked to lower levels of depression and fewer negative emotions like jealousy and envy. Gratitude is associated with higher levels of resilience, happiness, and life satisfaction. Gratitude also benefits our physical health. Studies have shown that people who are grateful have better cardiovascular functioning, including heart rate and blood pressure. Gratitude is also linked to stronger immune functioning, lower levels of pain and disability, and it's even linked to better sleep. And this is not only the amount of sleep that people get, but also the quality of sleep. So think about this. Perhaps instead of counting sheep before you go to bed, you could consider counting your blessings instead. The benefits of gratitude that I just mentioned are based on studies where individuals are practicing gratitude, like keeping a gratitude journal or engaging in gratitude meditations. And so the research that most of the research that's done so far, and the research I just mentioned, is really focused on that person who is has benefited from others. And so it's just that feeling of thanks that's associated with all of the benefits I just mentioned. But recently, researchers have started to investigate the exchange of gratitude and found another amazing benefit of gratitude. It benefits our relationships at work, love, and play. So remember that gratitude is a moral emotion. It's an other focused emotion. And so it probably makes intuitive sense to you that gratitude benefits relationships. And so when we recognize that we've benefited by the deeds of another person, we benefit in all of the ways I've already listed. But when there's an exchange of gratitude, when we express our gratitude to someone, we benefit, the other person benefits, and our relationship benefits. So let's take as an example Mary and Sam. Let's say that Mary does something kind for Sam. Sam's against a deadline to print a report, and he realizes his printer is out of toner. So Mary goes out of her way to get the toner, and she also installs it in his printer for him. So Mary is the benefactor or the giver, and Sam is the beneficiary or the recipient. So Sam recognizes what Mary did for him. And just by thinking about it, he benefits already. But then he expresses his gratitude to Mary. And now this benefits Mary. Mary feels really good. And by the way, she's also more likely to help Sam and other people in the future. And this exchange benefits Mary and Sam's relationship. Sam knows Mary is a good person and that he can count on her. And Mary knows that she can also count on Sam. Gratitude builds trust, cooperation, kindness, and much, much more. So the exchange of gratitude is so profound for both the benefactor and the beneficiary. Sarah Algo is a professor at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and she has really pioneered our understanding of how gratitude impacts our relationships. And she calls her theory the find, remind, and bind theory, because gratitude is one of the most effective ways to find new relationships, remind ourselves of the importance of existing relationships, and bind or strengthen our relationships. So, if gratitude is so good, isn't everybody grateful? Well, according to research by the John Templeton Foundation, people generally recognize that feel-good component of gratitude. In their study, they found that 60% of people say they express gratitude to make themselves feel good. And 57% of people said that they express gratitude to make others feel good too. And 90% of people describe themselves as grateful for their family. But only 49% regularly express gratitude to their parents, and 76% express gratitude to their children. And although 87% of people say that they're grateful for their friends, only 54% of people express their gratitude to their friends. So you can see there's a gap here. And I'm just curious about you all and how you experience gratitude in another context, like the workplace. So I'm wondering if you can take a moment and type in the chat bar, how many times in the past week have you been thanked at work? Okay, Dawn has been thanked 6 times. Jessica has been thanked 5 times. So usually when I'm giving a presentation, I ask questions to queue up my next bit of information, but this is failing terribly. So Anna, Amanda has received it like 10 times in the past week. Okay, so here's the thing. I imagine all of you work with me at ACU because I feel like I'm an outlier too, where I am thanked very often at work. But so this is so interesting. Thank you all so much for sharing this information. But it's so interesting because the research by the John Templeton Foundation shows that that gap, that gratitude gap, is even more profound at work. And in their study, they found that the place where we are least likely to receive gratitude or express gratitude is in the workplace. Yes, people are less likely to receive or express gratitude at work than any place else. But people see the benefit of gratitude at work. 88% of people say that expressing gratitude to colleagues makes them feel happier and more fulfilled. But despite that, only 10% of people express gratitude to their colleagues every day. 60% of people say they rarely or never express gratitude to their colleagues at work. And 74% rarely or never express gratitude to their boss. But people want a boss who expresses gratitude to them. 81% of people would work harder for a more grateful boss. 71% of people would feel better about themselves if a boss expressed gratitude. Not only that, but people believe gratitude can lead to professional success. 94% of women and 96% of men agree that a grateful boss is more likely to be successful. So, even though we want to receive gratitude at work, we aren't receiving it and we aren't giving it. Things are going wrong. And you may be thinking, so what? What happens when things go wrong with gratitude in a workplace? What's the negative impact? Well, gratitude impacts turnover. A recent study by the American Psychological Association found that over half of all employees intend to search for new jobs this year. And the main reason? They feel unappreciated. In the same study, only 31% of people had direct supervisors express verbal or written appreciation to them. And I just read a statistic from the United States Department of Labor saying that 65% of Americans reported receiving no appreciation or recognition during the past year at their work. The bottom line is that this can impact the bottom line. Bloomberg states that the costs of turnover are enormous, an estimated $11 billion a year. But I argue that those costs are likely even more because what happens before employees leave? They're often not motivated, they're often disengaged. These things impact productivity, which impacts the bottom line. So I say, if feeling unappreciated is the top reason why people leave their jobs, then incorporating gratitude into the workplace may help in retaining employees and creating a positive and healthy work environment. Now, I know that people like to be thanked in different ways, but I want to know from you, how do you prefer to be thanked at work? If you'll type your answers in the chat box, I'll appreciate that. This is great. So Amanda says, hey, face to face or a card. And Don says verbally and thank you notes too. And Kate says, I just want a simple thank you and no public recognition. Oh, this is great. And the truth is that, yes, everybody has different ideas and preferences for how they wish to be thanked. And this is really, really important. And gratitude in the workplace is important. And I wish I could say that this was all my idea, but I'm not the first person who's recognized how important gratitude is in the workplace. Over 50 years ago, Sam Walton said, appreciate everything your associates do for the business. Nothing else can quite substitute for a few well chosen, well timed, sincere words of praise. They're absolutely free and worth a fortune. But even before that, in Dale Carnegie's 1936 book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, he addresses gratitude. His second principle of human relations is give honest, sincere appreciation. But even before that, in the early 1900s, Charles Schwab was president of the United States Steel Company. And he was very upfront and admitted that he was not a genius and he was not even an expert in the steel industry. He said, the greatest asset I possess and the way to develop the best that is in a person is by appreciation and encouragement. So it's not a new idea at all. So let's go back and let's revisit those individual benefits of gratitude I listed earlier and why they matter in the workplace. So remember that gratitude impacts our physical health. Well, healthy employees are more productive and they produce higher quality work. Related to this, healthy employees take fewer sick days. And remember the research linking gratitude with better sleep? Well, researchers find that employees who get a good night's sleep are more productive and make fewer mistakes. And remember, gratitude is linked to lower levels of stress. And this has enormous benefits for our well being and productivity. Gratitude is also an antidote against toxic emotions in the workplace, like jealousy, envy, and injustice, which have a negative impact on performance. And relationships. Gratitude is essential in developing positive relationships, which are critical for healthy organizations. And I've rattled off a lot of things here, and I'm curious what from you, what do you think are other ways that gratitude could impact your work? If you'll type your answers in the chat box, I'd appreciate it. So Caitlin says, I think it makes a more open environment where employees can share their ideas. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Dawn says acceptance. Definitely. Amanda says networking, establishing new relationships, help on a project. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Joseph says greater engagement in difficult projects. Oh, I'm going to come back to that. It's absolutely true and so important. And gosh, what you all are saying is really exactly what researchers are finding. And it's so interesting, though, that it hasn't really been until about the past decade when researchers have put gratitude to the test in the workplace specifically. And overall, they found that gratitude is part of a healthy and positive workplace. And it benefits individuals in the workplace in really profound ways that it also benefits the organization. Researchers have found that gratitude is related to job satisfaction. In fact, gratitude explains 25% of the variance in job satisfaction. And gratitude is also linked to reduced burnout and increased well being. And it probably comes as no surprise to you that gratitude at work is linked to better and stronger relationships with coworkers. Gratitude at work is also linked to positive behaviors like organizational citizenship behaviors and engaging in corporate social responsibility initiatives. Researchers have also found that when people are grateful at work, they pay it forward by helping and greater cooperation and teamwork. And these research findings on helping may not be really surprising. We know in the workplace that people generally do help, and it even may be listed as part of someone's job to work effectively and help other team members. But what about those times when it's a really tedious task or when there's a cost to oneself? Do people help then? Well, researchers have found that grateful people are likely to help even when there's an unpleasant task, and they're likely to cooperate and make decisions for the greater good, even when there's a cost to themselves. Gratitude facilitates cooperative economic decision making that favors the group, even at the expense of greater individual financial gains. Grateful people have more patience and they're willing to take an economic payoff in the future by foregoing economic gains in their present, even when there is real money at stake. Gratitude facilitates socially inclusive behavior, even in the face of cost. And so these findings are based on research when people are grateful. They're either scoring high on a measure of gratitude or they've been induced to feel grateful. So this research is not on the exchange of gratitude. But what happens when there is an exchange of gratitude in the workplace? What happens when things go right? Remember from earlier, we know what happens when things go wrong and people don't exchange gratitude in the workplace. This is the number one reason why employees leave. So, what happens when things go right and people exchange gratitude in the workplace? Well, one compelling study shows that productivity increases. Adam Grant and Francesca Gino conducted a study at a university fundraising call center. And between the first and second week, half of the fundraisers received a visit from the university's director of annual giving. And she expressed her gratitude for their work and explained the value of the work that they were doing. And the other half of the fundraisers didn't receive a visit. Now, average performance of both groups had been virtually the same during the first week of the study. During the second week, those who heard that grateful message upped their efforts and they made a 50% increase in the number of calls that they made compared to the group receiving no thanks. These employees are not paid per call. They're paid the same fee regardless of the number of calls they made. And I should note that fundraising is a really challenging environment where people are faced with more rejection than almost any other environment. And so the researchers investigated further as to why this increase in productivity happened. They wondered, well, could it be their confidence or their self efficacy? And they found no, it wasn't. And what it was explained by social worth. And this reduces that uncertainty in helpers, how they may feel about their actions. Now they know their actions are valued and they're motivated to help and produce more. Other researchers have found that receiving gratitude at work is associated with increases in engagement and perceived pro-social impact, which means the experience of making a positive difference in the lives of others through one's work. And this is also a sign of positive relationships with others at work. And so I hope that you see why I think it is so important to incorporate gratitude in the workplace. And I have some ideas on how to do so. But before I share my ideas, I want to hear your thoughts. How can you start implementing gratitude in your workplace? Will you please answer me in the chat box? Excellent. So Danielle is saying, thanking my lead for the opportunity to teach a class, or thanking my lead for helping me navigate challenging student situations. Absolutely. Stephanie is saying, include gratitude for someone and an email to them. Excellent. Oh, Caitlin says, I live by my calendar so I could start putting gratitude reminders throughout my workflow. I love this, to keep that in mind. And Karen says, being more observant and taking the initiative to recognize someone's efforts. These are great ideas. And this shows that gratitude in the workplace can begin anywhere. And so some of the suggestions that I have, I say first, begin with your own gratitude practice. At the end of the day, write down 3 things that you're grateful for. And I suggest at the end of the day because it can be tied to other nighttime routines and become a habit. And it can help you sleep. And set reminders like you all have said, and in your phone, just to pause for a moment and to say, hey, at this moment, what am I grateful for? And having your own gratitude practice will also help you express gratitude to others more authentically. And we know that authenticity is critical in gratitude. So, yes, gratitude must be authentic, specific, and purposeful. And gratitude should focus on the other person, not us. So, we should use you language, not I language. So, one example could be, Jane, thank you for your hard work on the marketing pitch for the Smith Brothers landscaping account. I know you've been working late at night and you were in the office all of last weekend. You went the extra mile and created those graphics and examples that the CEO loved. In fact, the CEO loved it so much, he hired us as their ad agency. We have that account in large part because of you and your expertise and hard work. So it's got to be focused on that other person and what they did, not how we benefit from them. right. So, a lot of people have told me that they don't express gratitude at work because it feels like they're giving other people feedback. So, don't think about gratitude as feedback. Think about it as building relationships. And think about expressing gratitude to individuals and to teams. Find ways to help employees thank each other. And I think this is what Kate said in the chat, that they do at her new job in a website. They have a place where you can thank other people and they receive points. I love this. I absolutely love it. And you can begin at the top or anywhere in the organization. And a lot of people say that, oh, for any initiative in the workplace to be effective, it's got to start at the top. And I say, hey, in a perfect world, yes, that's ideal. But gratitude can start anywhere. All right. And you all have some amazing ideas of how to make it happen. And so I want to give you two examples of cases in which gratitude started at the top and where gratitude started in the middle. All right. And so that first case is Robert Eckert. He was the former CEO of Mattel. And when he arrived at Mattel, the company was in dire financial straits. They were losing almost $1 million a day. And on his first day at their town hall gathering in the cafeteria, he addressed all the employees and said, I know how this works. We will turn things around, and because I'm the new outsider CEO, I'll get a lot of the credit. But I know who's really going to deserve the credit, all of you. I appreciate what you all are about to accomplish. So he started off with the spirit of gratitude. And he says that, hey, to foster a culture of gratitude, it's a game changer for sustainably better performance. And some of his tips and some of the things he did, he says, set aside time every week to acknowledge people's good work. Handwrite thank you notes whenever you can. Punish in private, praise in public. Make that public praise timely and specific. And he also initiated programs at Mattel, like the Rave Reviews program. And this is similar to what Kate mentioned in the chat earlier, where employees can express gratitude and send an e-certificate for coffee or soda or something. And then he also had the Chairman's Award, where he would publicly acknowledge people who were doing extremely wonderful work that he was really grateful for. And he says that all of these initiatives and creating a culture of gratitude is likely why Mattel was voted one of the best companies to work for 6 years in a row by Forbes magazine. So let's look at another example. Let's look at a way that gratitude has been initiated in the middle. So this is the case of Sally Srock, who was the former head of hospitality at Francis Ford Coppola Wines. And she talked about being there at a time where there were so many changes in the company. They closed their home office. They were combining locations. A lot of people were telecommuting. And she said the culture felt really fragmented and that she could feel morale dropping. In fact, she could feel her own morale dropping. She felt like her work was not appreciated. And she stopped and said, okay, I'm a director. I can do something about this. So she started to talk about gratitude in their morning meetings. And she realized that it had an impact on the hospitality teams. But beyond the hospitality group, nothing had changed. So she went to her boss and said, listen, here's what's going on. Do you see this? Do you feel it? And he said, yes. So they brainstormed ideas and she came up with something I think is so cool. Grazie cards. And these are notes where employees could give thank you notes to each other, these grazie cards to each other. And she said that people were so thrilled to give these cards and to receive them. And she really started to see a shift in the culture. So gratitude can start from anywhere. And I realize I've talked about a lot of things today, and I just want to recap a few things. Gratitude is a virtue and an emotion. It benefits our mental and physical health and our relationships in really profound ways. Gratitude can change a company's culture and benefit business. So my challenge to you is start that shift and be that change that you want to see in your organization. Thank you all so much for being here with me today.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. KK. We will open up shortly for Q&A with Dr. O'Byrne. And while you're thinking of questions for her, you will see a link posted in the chat for anyone interested in finding out more about our online degree programs. You'll receive an email within the next 24 hours with a recording of today's session, including a brief survey. We would appreciate your feedback as we continue these webinars in the future. We would also like to invite you to ACU Online's Open House webinar next week on Thursday, March 28th at 6:30 p.m. to have a deeper look into our online degree programs and hear from some of our advisors and program directors. We're also posting a registration link in the chat for this event. If you do have further questions, feel free to email us at idealab@acu.edu. And we want to sincerely thank you all for joining us, and a special thank you again to Dr. O'Byrne for sharing your knowledge with us today. We will now open it up for Q&A, so feel free to type your questions for Dr. KK in the chat.
Thank you all so much for being here and for the really wonderful comments. I'm so grateful for you and for that kind feedback and for these amazing ideas. And I just wanted to touch on something that Jessica posted in the chat earlier about being intentional and seeking things to be thankful for, and not just showing gratitude for the really obvious things. And so this reminds me of something that I think is so critical, and it's really sharing gratitude and expressing gratitude for people who do some of those really thankless jobs, right? And things that, where people are often in a position where they're not making people happy. And I think about some customer service people that sometimes get just, verbally beat up by their customers. And so I've always made a pact that, hey, when I get great service, and even when I don't get what I want, when somebody's really trying to help me, I really try to express my gratitude toward them. And people who do those hidden jobs, the people who come in and keep the workplace really clean and nice, and things that we don't always see people doing, but we sometimes take for granted. It's pausing and being really intentional, like Jessica suggested, and thanking those people. Okay, so I see a question here. Has there been any research done on how companies who have primarily remote employees, how gratitude affects them, or challenges in sharing gratitude from not being face-to-face? Okay, so this is such a great question, Amanda, and that's been on my radar to either start research in this area or encourage others. I have not seen anything thing in that area specifically. But I'll just share my experience. I work virtually, and it's so interesting because I feel like here at ACU, gratitude is so ingrained in our culture, and it is everywhere. I get it from the leaders. I get it from my colleagues. I get it from people that are at the main campus even, and people who I'm just interacting with through email. I feel this culture of gratitude. And so my instinct is to say, yes, it can absolutely be done. And it's probably something that I don't have the best insight into, since it is so ingrained in our culture here at ACU that I can't see it as an outsider of how exactly it's done. But I think that we really need research in this area so that other organizations, especially virtual organizations, can benefit like we have. Yes, yes. I see another question here on how can gratitude connect with customers and clients. Yes, there is research on this topic, and so we know that in the workplace, when there is a culture of gratitude and those employees are then interacting with customers and clients, that there is this spillover effect, that gratitude is contagious. So not only are people more likely to thank other people, so the company employee is more likely to thank that company's customer or their client, they're also more likely to go that extra mile and help them and to do things that are out of the ordinary for them. And so we know that gratitude can be really contagious in that way, but there is specific relationships on how, or specific research on those relationships and how gratitude from that client to the customer, or company to the customer, can really be beneficial. And again, it's that exchange of gratitude and that sincere, timely, and specific expression of gratitude for their business. And even if it's not something that person has done out of the ordinary for them, it's that sincere and acknowledgement of their business, and hey, we're really grateful to work with you as a client, and so on. So absolutely. And it can boost those relationships and boost the bottom line. Are there any other questions, or is there anything that's particularly compelling about gratitude that you would like to talk about some more? Yes, exactly. So I see another comment in here. And so part of the name is cut off here, but it looks like it might be Kate or Catherine that's saying, I think it's very similar to sending a thank you after an interview. Absolutely. And the salesperson should always thank the person they're trying to get their money from, for their time in their business, etc. Absolutely, absolutely. And we know that expressing that gratitude is, I feel like there's this obligation, and it's this moral emotion that is really responsible for connecting us to other people. And it has to be authentic. So if we're thanking somebody because we want a specific outcome and we're really not truly grateful, like if it's somebody thanking somebody after an interview and they're not sincere, but they're saying it because they want the job, then that's going to come across, absolutely. And that's salesperson, saying that thank you and building that relationship, hey, even if they don't get their business right then, that sets them up for success in the future because they're building a relationship, not just this one-time exchange. And I think that that's one of the most profound outcomes of gratitude, that it builds relationships.
Awesome. Well, I do want to thank everyone for their participation in these questions. I think we are going to go ahead and conclude today's session. If you do have further questions, please email us or visit our website at acu.edu or acuidealab.com. Thank you again for joining us today at ACU Idea Lab, and we hope you have a blessed day.